And it's a new episode of the Breakfast Central. Thank you very much for joining us on Thursday morning from wherever you might be watching us here in Nigeria or across the continent or in any part of the world. For the next 2 hours, as always, we have some of the biggest conversations happening here in Nigeria and bits and pieces of other parts of the continent. Remember, you can be a part of it by calling the numbers when the phone lines are open or simply join us via social media platforms at News Central TV. There is so much that has gone on or happened in the last 24, in fact, the last 48 hours here in Nigeria, including, of course, a follow-up on the case being built by the EFCC against former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello. And, of course, news from Aso Rock this morning. These are some of the things I'm going to be sharing with you as we go on with the show this morning. Of course, Olive is here with me. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. Excited to be here again. So much drama is happening, like Osage has already mentioned. We're going to be following up with the Yahaya Bello against the FCC case. Very interesting. Or EFCC against Yahaya Bello is like, it's starting to look like what it seems. And there's been some misunderstanding as to what exactly has happened. There's been a headline of a court case being or of a charge being withdrawn, and social media users have started to ask the EFCC chairman to resign because there is some level of misunderstanding regarding that story. But we'll be addressing that much later on in the show and when we take what Nigerians are saying. We also will be bringing you the breakfast headlines, and we have Judith who's on standby for that. Hello, Judith.
To you, Olive, and good morning to you, Osarage. How are you guys doing this Thursday morning?
Fantastic. Did you also feel the same way when you read the EFCC story? Because until you look at the actual story, you might be shocked when you see the headline.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the fantastic things about headlines. Sometimes they might be misleading until you read the fine print. But I mean, from the very beginning of this story and how it's unfolded, one thing is very, very clear, and that is the conflicting court rulings or the conflicting orders that we've seen just before his arrest and even just before his attempt for them to arrest him and a warrant, asking for a warrant, going to the Federal High Court and going to the Kogi Court as well. I think there's no, what it shows is that there's no synergy in terms of our judiciary. I think that's what I'm looking for. It's not so much as in sync as it should be. And a lot of things can be misinterpreted, and some things might slip through the cracks. And so after all this entire debacle and brouhaha is over, I think we need to start to look at the entire process of our judicial system. But yeah, it's very conflicting, even from the very beginning.
I completely hear you on that. But I also think that what this highlights in that regard is how the law can be used as an instrument for justice, and in some cases for foul play, because some people can decide to withhold certain parts of information. Some people can decide to use, we always say that the court is not a Father Christmas. The court grants the orders that you ask for, and it works with the facts brought before it. So there's so much technicalities and legalities that can be used for and against a particular case. So it's imperative for the EFCC to do their due diligence, do their homework, and not give us a media trial. Because what a number of people are referring to referring to what they're doing now as a media trial, where they make a lot of noise, cause a lot of stir and excitement. People are excited and feel like, yes, Ola Olukayode is working, the FCC is working. And after a while, to what end?
Which is pretty much the same way it always starts. Every new EFCC chairman starts with the same energy. We've seen it happen, back to back until, a couple of months later where, everything just seems to fade away.
Right.
But we're hoping that this one is going to be different. There would be a strong argument that it's not just in Kogi State. The graph is everywhere across the country. And so if the EFCC truly is on top of its game, along with the Nigerian judiciary, then, of course, these cases are going to just keep coming in for the next couple of years.
Osarage, I mean, to the comments that Olive made about our law and how it's interpreted, isn't that the law in and of itself? It's the best man win. How you're able to wield it to your advantage is really what it is. Yeah. And everyone has a fair hearing, and then you can wield it to your own advantage. But I think there's another player that we're not looking at here as well. It's also the law enforcement. There was a security detail attached to this man, and by man I mean the ex-governor Yahaya Bello, before he absconded and left. And no one is, talking about the security details and the agency and talk to the agency as to how this happened, that he was able to, he just disappeared thin air, and we're now all, running after us. Because all eyes are on the EFCC and the judiciary, the system in and of itself. But we need to talk about about our policing and our agency.
Yeah.
Same story happened several months ago with Binance, and now this again. It's.
Yeah. I mean, as much as, the EFCC chairman, got a lot of comments, people commending him for, that very, very interesting video that came out a couple of days ago, it's still fair to say that EFCC currently is on trial. Same with Nigeria's security agencies, same with Nigeria's judiciary. And Nigerians are waiting to see, because a lot of Nigerians have written them off. So, this is an opportunity for them to prove, Nigerians wrong.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Judith TV. Let's begin by telling you that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has withdrawn its appeal at the Court of Appeal, Abuja, seeking to set aside the interim injunction barring it from arresting the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, for trial. The anti-graft agency, in its notice of discontinuance dated April 22nd, said its decision to terminate further proceedings on the appeal was based on the fact that the initial order a Kogi State High Court made in favor of the former governor has been overtaken by events. The commission also admitted that the appeal it filed challenging the said interim order was filed outside the time allowed by the law. And on to Kaduna State, where the House of Assembly ad hoc committee set up to investigate ex-governor Nasir El-Rufai's 8-year administration has set Thursday as deadline for the submission of memorandum and documents to the committee. This was contained in a formal communication issued by the clerk of the Assembly, Sekinatu Hassan, to the Kaduna State Commissioner of Finance, outlining the scope of the probe. According to the statement, the investigation by the lawmakers will focus on the loans, financial transactions, contractual liabilities, and other than matters that were obtained or awarded under the El-Rufai administration. And Nigeria's Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, has suspended Dana airline operations due to concerns surrounding the safety and financial viability of the operations. The minister also ordered a comprehensive audit of the airline, which will encompass all aspects of safety protocols, maintenance procedures, and financial health to ensure full compliance with the aviation sector's regulations. One of the airline's craft, with registration number 5NBKI, skidded off the runway at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos on Tuesday morning. And move away from that now to security matters, where the African Counter-Terrorism Summit has ended in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, with African leaders tasked to form a common front in combating the root causes of terrorism on the continent. Major General A.G. Laka, National Coordinator, National Counter-Terrorism Center, reiterated the commitment of African leaders to fighting the menace.
In the same space as democracy and good governance, such a force can stand as a strong deterrent to large-scale and protracted terrorist operations.
For many years, we have pushed for greater cooperation to counter terrorism and tackle the proliferation of unregistered and untraceable small arms. There are 40 million small arms and light weapons under the control of non-state actors in Africa. The challenge of confronting terrorism is different in scale and design. We're fighting networks that know no boundaries or borders.
The epicenter of terrorism has shifted from the Middle East and North Africa into sub-Saharan Africa, concentrated largely in the Sahel region.
We condemn the growing use of a variety of new technology for terrorist purposes.
And away from security matters now, a former Attorney General, Zacchaeus Adangor, which was deployed to the Ministry of Special Duties by Governor Siminalayi Fubara on Tuesday, has resigned again from the Rivers State Cabinet. Adangor was among the core loyalists of the Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike, who resigned last December but was later restored to his position following a peace agreement reached in Abuja. In a letter to the Secretary of the Rivers State Government, Tammy Dana Gogo, on Wednesday, Adangor rejected the deployment and resigned from the Rivers Executive Council with effect from April 24. he said he chose to leave the government to preserve his reputation. We'll move away from there now to the United Kingdom, where it has now passed the bill to deport illegal asylum seekers to Rwanda 2 years later. According to this new law, any asylum seeker in the UK who arrives in the country illegally will be deported to Rwanda. The first flight of asylum seekers in the UK is set to leave for Rwanda in July. The Rwandan government says it welcomes the decision and is also ready to receive immigrants. Rwanda said the immigrants would be taken care of, adding that they will be giving accommodation and proper medical attention. Roads turned into gushing rivers and homes swamped by waist-high muddy waters, storms and flash floods wreaked devastation across the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, on Wednesday, claiming at least 4 lives. The East African region has been lashed by relentless downpours in recent weeks as the El Nino weather pattern exacerbated the seasonal rainfall. Across Nairobi, images posted by Kenyan media showed trucks, cars and motorbikes stuck in the deluge and people wading through floodwaters in slum areas of the city to try to reach safety. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Back to Osa, Roge and Olive.
All right, thank you very much. Sad to see the Dana Airways, being grounded. I was just saying to all of you, that of course I understand it's what's in the best interest of Nigeria and of course the aviation safety here in the country, but it's just sad, we're struggling to keep as many of these airlines afloat. They're dealing with, financial crisis here and there, and the handful of airlines that we have, it's heartbreaking to see another one, seemingly being suspended.
Right. I mean, it's sad indeed, and we can't make a case. I hate to make a case with them, but the aviation sector has been hit very, very hard in this last year.
All right. Thank you very much, Judith, for bringing us the news. See you around. We will head into our top stories in a moment, but first, let's get on this quick break. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has tasked stakeholders in the justice sector to restore the trust and confidence of citizens back to the judiciary. This was during the National Summit on Justice 2024, which held in Abuja, organized by the Ministry of Justice in collaboration with the Nigeria Bar Association. Our correspondent, Marvelous Obumanu, files this report.
The judiciary is one of the arms of the government fundamental to the growth and sustainability of democracy in the country. While the judiciary must periodically self-examine and scrutinize its performance, the 2024 National Summit on Justice provides an opportunity for this. President Bola Tinubu, who was represented at the summit by the Vice President, called for far-reaching reforms that reposition the judiciary.
Identify and seek solutions to gaps in the regulatory, operational, and institutional challenges that have long inhibited justice sector institutions from delivering on their mandates. I demand informed and coordinated responses to the identified challenges flagging the effectiveness and efficiency of the sector. I demand performance so that Nigerians can feel and acknowledge the impact of your reform efforts.
Other speakers here agree that the nation's justice system needs far-reaching reforms to help it meet its obligations to citizens.
Access to justice remains a distant reality for far too many Nigerians, with barriers ranging from procedural complexities to socioeconomic disparities. The quest for justice should not be a privilege reserved for the few, but a right accessible to all.
The policy also seeks to improve mechanisms for fair and speedy dispensation of justice, detention and correctional services, restorative justice, alternative dispute resolution, ADR, developing Nigeria into an arbitration hub on the continent.
And working in concert with the committees on constitutional amendments, judiciary and legal matters, both in the House of Representatives and also in the Senate, and also the committee on the amendment of the Electoral Act, our commitment to ensuring that the thoughtful and transformative justice reforms propagated here today are seamlessly integrated into the ongoing amendments that we are doing.
The summit was attended by the Vice President, the leadership of the nation's parliament, anti-graft agencies, cabinet ministers, amongst others. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obonman.
Thank you very much, Marvelous, for that report. And it's very important that we have conversations about public trust. We talk about it every time on the show. But I think when we have conversations about public trust, the people that we're looking at, everybody has a role to play, but more importantly, the government. The government has a role to play in restoring public trust. Because why I say that, and we all know that, is that when they say something, it's hard for the Nigerian people to believe that the government has the best intention of Nigerians at heart. Even in cases like something as, I mean, it's not a minor case, but the Yahaya Bello and EFCC case. So there's the role of law enforcement agents, there's the role that the government has to play, and then there's the role that the judiciary itself has to play, because it just feels like the average Nigerian just feels like the stacks are not lined up in their favor, that the odds are not in their favor, and that when the government brings out a new policy, there's always an underlying motive. So when we hear of a new policy, everybody's thinking, what are they thinking? Why are they doing this? There has to be something in it for them. That is, that shows how much our trust has been eroded. Then the justice system, there's a huge role that the judiciary has to play. Huge role in terms of speedy adjudication of matters. We need to shorten the time frame within which certain matters, are being sorted out. And also, the 2023 elections showed a great revelation on how Nigerians have lost some level of trust in the judiciary, because they were accused and referred to as accomplices in a number of the wrongdoings and a number of the poor outcomes that we saw from results of the 2023 election matters that went to the tribunal. So there's just a lot that has to be done. It's the government, it's the judiciary, it's the legislators. In fact, it's all the arms of government, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. They all have a role to play in restoring public trust.
Yeah, I agree. And that has greatly depreciated in the last couple of years. It's always interesting seeing these, summits, on justice sector reforms by the people who should be making, the same reforms. So when you watch it, it feels like, or it looks like just playing to the gallery. Because they all individually know the things that need to be done to improve on the trust deficit Nigerians have with its, justice sector, and of course, with the government itself. They know, the Chief Justice of the Federation, the Minister of Justice, everybody who's present there. Of course, the Senate President was there also. They all know what is important that needs to be done if we need to improve on, justice, trust
public
deficit
trust, yeah,
with regards the judiciary. So the question really would be, what steps will they take, and how eager are they to take these steps to improve on it? What steps are they willing to take to ensure that every Nigerian citizen is certain that they would get justice when they approach the courts?
Yes.
What steps are they willing to take to improve? Like you spoke about the time of adjudication now. There's so many of these things. You look at the number of people that are awaiting trial and just still waiting because they've been going back and forth, court for years. With the case continue to be adjourned, with the judge not showing up, with the prosecuting team not showing up, just many of these, a lot of nonsense that just happens. Look at Nnamdi Kanu's case.
Yeah.
And how long it has taken, to just make some headway in the case. So, but the point is, we all know that there's a lot of issues with the justice system. Those who should be making those adjustments, I don't, as much as yes, it's good to have these summits and talk about these things. They know what they need to do. Telling Nigerians, that these reforms need to happen, it's not what Nigerians want to hear. We want to see that bills are being pushed. We want to see that, the CGN himself is, making a proper cry and making proper steps to improve on these aspects, not just these summits. And because these summits, these meetings don't help anybody.
If we're talking about the judiciary and being able to have trust in the judiciary again, there's another area that we've talked about before on the show, but I will still talk about that we need to look at. We also need to look at the complete independence of the judiciary. I've been hearing about independence of judiciary right from when I was studying law in my first year. And even now, many years later, the judiciary isn't completely independent. We need to get to the point where the judiciary is not reliant on the executive. The executive has a huge role to play in appointment of judges. So many people just think about it as, I mean, he who plays the piper dances, dictates the tune. So if the executive is the one that decides who is chief judge, and whilst the National Judicial Council can make the selections, the executive has to approve of it, then the executive has some measure of power over the judiciary. If the executive can, or the executive, yes, can hold on to monies that is to be allocated, or the monies that are to be allocated to the judiciary, because they can hold on to these monies just because they can manipulate them, then the judiciary is not completely independent. So they need to be completely independent and know that if they are making any choices and taking any decisions, it's free of any form of bias, free of any form of repercussion from the executive or any form of manipulation. Then the legislative also has their own work cut out for them as well. Open National Assembly. Open National Assembly. That's a hashtag that's trended for the longest time. Was it really open? How much do they earn? Do we really know how much these people earn? When it comes to the budgets that they're looking at, are they going to now start scrutinizing budgets and cutting down on necessary things that that are not meant to be there? All the paddings that are there. What sacrifices are the executive and the legislature making to make life bearable for the average Nigerian? Because you can't keep telling us, oh, Nigerians, you need to cut down, endure for a little longer, but you are living lavish. You're receiving prayers in your emails. So,
and of course, the independence of the judiciary, and of course, these reforms we're talking now need to go from the federal to the state level. Even state judiciary level, still has its, many challenges that it's dealing with. But like I said, I think that they all know what needs to be done.
It's whether they will do it, there's another issue.
Yeah, exactly. Whether, these steps will be taken or not, nobody knows. But do they know what needs to be done? Do they know the adjustments that need to be made? Yes, they do. Good thing, like I said, the Senate President is there. So it's not like anybody's missing. We are all together. Let's, agree on what needs to be done.
Right.
And, take these steps.
Interestingly. Anyway, still talking about the judiciary and the role that it has to play, let's move on to another very important conversation. Recently, the EFCC withdrew its appeal at the Court of Appeal in Abuja regarding an interim injunction against arresting former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello. The agency cited changes in circumstances and admitted filing the appeal late. Bello had obtained the court order preventing his arrest, which was upheld in a recent ruling, stating that the EFCC cannot act without permission from the Federal High Court.
Meanwhile, the Federal High Court in Abuja issued an arrest warrant against Yahaya Bello, but the EFCC's attempt to execute it was reportedly thwarted by the incumbent governor of Kogi State, Ododo. Bello faces charges related to money laundering and misappropriation of funds, totaling about 80.2 billion naira. The trial court is set to rule on Bello's challenge to the arrest warrant on the 10th of May. But of course, the EFCC's, decision to withdraw the case at the appeal court isn't because, like everybody, suspected, or, started crying about, isn't because they, got scared of Yahaya Bello or because they, had a rethink about prosecuting him. They are saying that the case was not filed properly. And that is with regards of the 9th of February, 2024, case that was, or rather injunction.
Interim injunction,
exactly, that was initially given, preventing EFCC from arresting or interrogating Yahaya Bello. Their counter to that, was not properly filed within the time frame that it should be filed, and so it was almost an illegal case. That's why they decided to pull out or withdraw this case at the appeal court. It doesn't mean that EFCC is letting Yahaya Bello off the hook. Doesn't mean that EFCC is scared of Yahaya Bello or somebody has whispered in EFCC's chairman's ear to let it go. I don't think that's what any of this means. They probably just want to do things the right way. He's still, at least to the best of our knowledge, on the EFCC's watch list. And of course, the same with the Nigerian immigration, which says that he cannot leave Nigeria. He's still expected, I believe, to show himself
in court, yes.
In court, and of course at the EFCC's office.
Right. The matter, of course, I mean, we've been following this story, and it's one that caused a lot of issues. You've already set the background of the conversation about the interim injunction that was given on the 9th of February. So yes, whilst that interim injunction had been given to say that EFCC had no right to arrest, detain, interrogate, or sort of it's his own fundamental human right, because he felt like the EFCC was quote unquote witch hunting him. So whilst he had gotten that to protect himself, they also went to get a warrant of arrest, whilst appealing what exactly the 9th of February court had, the interim injunction that the court had given on the 9th of February. I think it's also important to mention that in this matter, there's basically a lot of reactions on social media with people thinking that this is an end to the matter, but it's not. There was also the case of him not saying he's not appearing in court, because you can't ask him to appear in court when there's a warrant of arrest issued against him, that he's afraid, quote unquote. But now that this has been, put to rest, he has to arrest in court. There can't be a subsisting warrant of arrest whilst he has been delivered. He has been served. Now, speaking of service, he wasn't in court on the day that he was meant to be in court, and there was an issue as to whether or not whether or not his counsel can be served. And the court allowed his counsel to be served. So we're waiting for him to come and take his plea in court, because it is assumed that the matter has already started. So there's no need for a warrant of arrest being out there, and then the service has already been given to his counsel. There's no way he's not aware now that there is a matter or there's a charge against him. So it's left for him to then come and take his appeal. If by the adjourned date in May, he doesn't show up in court, then that's another kettle of fish. Yeah. And then we can then start talking about maybe a fresh warrant of arrest or whatever it is.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, the EFCC, is also on trial here, with the video, for the EFCC chairman, Olaolukoyede, speaking with regards to Yahya Bello's case, that many have described as, a media trial, and really just, a display to show that you're seriously working. They're currently on trial also, at least, in the eyes of the Nigerian people. Nigerian people are patiently waiting to see where this leads. How these things turn out. Will, there be proper prosecution? Does the EFCC have a proper case built against Yahya Bello? Because, none of this is saying that he's guilty. There still needs to be that whole process. And so it's once again going to be another opportunity for the EFCC to show that, they didn't build a case on nothing.
And they are not, quote unquote, witch hunting.
Exactly, witch hunting him, so, but this is also going on I think there's also something built in Kaduna State with former Governor Nyesom Wike. Kano State, of course, has its own bits of drama with interim injunction on top interim injunction. But we'll see how, this turns out. Again, the EFCC itself, is also on trial. But let's move away from EFCC and Kogi State, and we'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to Rivers State this morning.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, succor will come to the people of Okwama community who have been displaced in Ughelli South local government area of Delta State following the killing of soldiers and the destruction of houses and property. As Governor Sheriff Obi on Wednesday inaugurated Internally Displaced Persons Management Committee. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu reports that the OVA of Ewurobo Kingdom, His Royal Majesty Clement Ikolo, also pays the governor a thank you visit after his release from the Nigerian Army custody. Let's take a look.
This is the first time the OVA of Ewurobo Kingdom is returning to Delta State after spending days in military detention over the killings in Okwama community.
And I thank these people who are here today. They are awesome. I love them all from the depths of my heart.
Meanwhile, Governor Sheriff Obi is here at the ESCO Chambers Government House Asaba to inaugurate the IDP Management Committee for the people of Okwama community.
People have been displaced with their homes and property destroyed. This was, still is, a fortunate and most unexpected development.
The governor, who spoke on the essence of enhancing peace and security in his more agenda, charged the committee to carefully plan the resettlement and rehabilitation of the innocent inhabitants of Okwama community.
It's now right for government to set up a committee to plan their resettlement and rehabilitation ahead of their return. This is the minimum we owe our people. We have to reassure them
to have a sense of belonging as we make adequate arrangements for their settlement and rehabilitation.
In the same vein, the Ovie of Ewurobo Kingdom, accompanied by his wife and Council of Chiefs, leadership of the State Traditional Rulers Council are also here at the Government House.
As the Ovie of Ewurobo Kingdom, it is my solemn duty to uphold the peace and prosperity of our land. I reaffirm my commitment to working collaboratively with all relevant stakeholders, including the government and security agencies, to foster a safe and secure environment for all our citizens. In conclusion, despite the traumatic events of the past few weeks, I am in good health and sound mind.
The challenge before you today is to put you together. Let your people be united.
Attention was, however, shifted to a private residence in Asaba, where the monarch was given a warm reception by his people.
And I'm sure in a few days from now, either we visit or my husband will be visiting the camp. And I want to thank each and everybody, and I want us to maintain peace. The truth will come out. The government will settle all issues outstanding.
With the inauguration of the committee and return of the monarch to the state, there's huge expectation that the people of Okwama will soon return to their ancestral home to pick up what is left in their lives and begin again. In Asaba, Delta State, for News Central, Austin Azu.
Go to bed 1 minute, or you wake up 1 minute in your house, and the next day you're waking up as an internally displaced person. My heart just bleeds for the innocent people in the Okwama community. Whilst we totally condemn the attack on our Nigerian gallant officers, I think it's also important because we had a representative from the state who talked about this. We asked about the reprisal attacks. Initially, it seemed like they weren't very forthcoming or very upfront about the reprisal attacks, but they have been. And these people, a number of them have run into the bush as a result of the fear of their lives. And unfortunately now, they've become internally displaced persons. I wonder what their lives will become. I hope that the perpetrators of this dastardly act are found out and are made to face the law. And I'm talking of those who killed the military men. But I also think it's important that we highlight that two wrongs cannot make a right. There are a number of innocent people that have suffered as a result of this.
I don't think they're being totally honest. I don't think, that a government that owes or understands its responsibility to citizens will allow people to just disappear and, have to live in IDP camps and then, just be casually talking about it, just like that. When this same government has still not been able to tell anybody what happened in Okwama. So if you're talking about, the people running away, it's not, aliens didn't attack. There is no, pandemic in Okwama. There's no, Godzilla didn't show up there. So, what exactly has chased the people out of that community?
It is
what exactly has led to the crisis there? So we can assume and we can all, create our own narrative here and there from what might be going on, no doubt. But the state government itself has not been able to put out an official statement to say that from their investigations, this is what happened and this is what they're doing to restore security of lives and property in the state. That, all of the perpetrators, people who killed, the Nigerian army officers have been arrested, are being prosecuted, are being, on the run, something. Like, give us something that sounds like you understand your responsibility to these people. Because again, why are the people of Okwama not at home? Why are they, IDPs? What exactly is chasing them away? And nobody can tell, nobody has been honest enough with Nigerians to say, okay, this is exactly what happened. These are the people who committed this act. These are those who went back for a reprisal attack, if there was a reprisal attack. There's nothing. We're just assuming
They tried to gloss over the reprisal attacks. It was on social media we were seeing reports of the individuals who were running away, sharing about it, of those who said they were trapped in the bush, calling on President Tinubu to come and save them. So there hasn't been a formal address on this matter.
There hasn't been a formal address on any, a formal, honest address on any of these things.
I don't know if there ever will be.
I saw that the ICIJ or the FIJ Nigeria, one of them, put out their own investigative report that was very, very indicting on certain people. That, of course, I wouldn't call their names on television because it's still, an investigative report that needs to be investigated. Or needs to be rather looked into further by the state government, by the federal government. I saw that. But until then, we're going to keep deceiving ourselves. And again, I'll continue to ask, does the state government or the federal government know its responsibility to the people who are in the Okwama community? Do they know their responsibility to those soldiers who lost their lives? I mean, is any of them being honest, that, okay, we understand what needs to be done here according to the responsibilities that we have to these people? So I just don't see a lot of honesty in any of all these things. Why are we having an IDP management committee? Did an earthquake happen in Okwama? Help us understand. What exactly happened in Okwama? What is the crisis about?
Why is there an IDP? Why do they have to live in the IDP camp? Why are their houses leveled? Why are we seeing pictures of their houses leveled with the generators,
and
scattered
if it was
around?
From a reprisal attack,
who
are you holding
responsible
exactly for the reprisal
because
attack?
Because what we're saying now is that we're making it okay for people to respond with the, the same amount of violence. We're making it okay for the military to be able.
Well, I personally don't have facts that the military did anything or carried out any reprisal attack.
And I agree with you. We can't say for sure.
But the point is, why are the people of Okwama in Delta State, Ughelli South, in an IDP camp? What has the state government said that this is the official story of what happened that day in Okwama that led to the death of these Nigerian Army officers, and these are the people that have been, that have been arrested? Is there a terrorist group in Okwama that is chasing people out, or that has burnt those houses, that has made those places inhabitable,
also,
that has made them go to IDP camps?
Who is carrying out the investigation on what happened? Because, like I've been saying from the jump, the army cannot investigate that was a wrong that was done to it. If I say somebody did a wrong to me or to my family members, I am not in the state of mind to investigate that matter. It's why typically if a person has a loved one who's critically ill and maybe needs surgery, you would hardly see it allowed that the doctor is maybe the husband of the woman or something. Or in a legal case, once there's conflict of interest, it's like, okay, you're an interested party. A party should not be a judge in his own cause. And if the military is the one who's carrying out the investigation, they are a judge in their own cause. Because they will not be able to investigate it with fairness.
It's the same way the military, seemingly carried out an investigation and set up committees to investigate the bombing in Borno State in Ran in 2015, I think, or 2017.
Yeah.
It happened again, maybe once or twice.
And there was a name that was mentioned there as the person who gave the order, even though nothing was being done about it.
But I'm just, in agreement with what you're saying, that the military cannot investigate itself. 100%, I agree with that. But I'm pointing out once again, the responsibility that the state government, that the new governor of Delta State has to the people of, Ughelli South, and in fact, every community in Delta State. And if we're talking, about the fact that people have had to flee their homes and go to IDP camps, is there a proper explanation why? Is there a proper explanation from the River State government as to why these people are endangered in their homes, or their homes are no longer, habitable? And if it is that there is a small terror group, or there's, a group of people who have been perpetrating violence against those people, is the Delta State government aware of its responsibility to ensure that those citizens are protected, and whoever it is that's committing those acts of violence is arrested? Listen, I understand that there are little details here and there that we
don't know, and we may never know.
We might sound ignorant, saying it this way, because there are little details here and there with regards politics and, money and some of all these extra details here and there. I understand it. I understand that that place has had militants for a long time, that you're not necessarily just going to, blow away. It is a heavy militarized area. I understand it. And I'm just like I had a conversation with someone yesterday, that the fact that these things are the way that they are, they have been like this for a long time. should not stop us from pointing out what the right thing to be done is. It shouldn't stop us from pointing out the failures where they exist. We would, on one hand, understand that, okay, it's not as easy as you're saying it. I agree. But doesn't mean that I will not tell you that this is what you should do. And the people, nobody should be living in an IDP camp in Nigeria, a country that is not at war with anybody. Why do we have people live in IDP camps?
Anyway, let's move away from the IDP camp conversation. We do look forward to the Delta State government helping us shed further light on what happened in the Ukwama community, and then giving us insight as to who exactly is carrying out the investigation. Is the army investigating itself? We look forward to answers.
Absolutely.
Now, let's move away from that to Rivers State. In a significant administrative move, Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has implemented a minor cabinet reshuffle in a bid to reorganize his cabinet to bring renewed vigor to the government's efforts in addressing critical issues such as infrastructure development, social welfare, and economic growth, which resulted in the redeployment of key loyalists of former Governor Nyesom Wike. Barely 24 hours after the redeployment, Zacchaeus Adangor, the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, who was redeployed to the Ministry of Special Duties, and Isaac Kamalu, Commissioner of Finance, who was redeployed to the Economic Generation and Economic Empowerment Ministry, tendered their resignation, outrightly rejecting the governor's move.
Mr. Adangor, in his resignation, has accused Governor Fubara of interfering with his duties as Attorney General, while Kamalu disagreed with Governor Fubara on the internally generated revenue of Rivers State. The governor last week claimed that the state's IGR had increased from 11 billion naira under Nyesom Wike to 27 billion naira in 1 year of his administration, a jump of over 100%. Now, earlier this week, we would of course recall Governor Fubara was stripped of his powers to appoint local government caretaker committee by the Rivers State House of Assembly, and this development, of course, marked the latest twist in the political battle between, well, the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike and Fubara of course, Rivers State. These, of course, are the insinuations that people have. Are there more rumbles in the creeks in Rivers State? And of course, these resignations, what do they really signify? And these are some of the things that would have to, of course, open up more conversations on. Will he, of course, have his way with, being able to run Rivers State? It also makes us remember the warnings that I saw a lot of Nigerians give when there was the peace accord being signed by Governor Fubara with, of course, the president and other interested parties in the Federal Capital Territory. Many people had warned back then that, signing peace accord with people who do not necessarily want peace might be dangerous. And in general, the events that had played out even before the peace accord, was signed, were already enough, to indict every single party who was involved in all of that chaos. It was also not necessarily the wisest decision to go and be signing, a peace accord, and of course, getting the president himself involved, even after the events that took place, the demolition of the Rivers State House of Assembly complex, the resignation from the PDP of members of the House of Assembly. Many of these incidents, didn't seem like Rivers State was being handled by people who really understood what they were doing. But these are the latest developments in Rivers State, and of course, we would see how much this where all of this leads. And if you read the letter written by one of those who, let me just quickly share this. One of those who resigned, he stated clearly, that he would no longer want to be a part of Governor Fubara's government. And he says, he says here, and this is from Danagogo, yes, Dr. Tami Wenike Danagogo, Secretary to Rivers State Government. He says here, it is important to mention that the governor of Rivers State has in the past couple of weeks willfully interfered with the performance of my duties as the Honorable Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice, Rivers State, by directing me not to defend, oppose, or appear in suits instituted against the Honorable Attorney General and the government of Rivers State by persons admittedly hired and sponsored by the governor of Rivers State. He also goes on to say that having served the government and good people of Rivers State dutifully as member of the Rivers State Executive Council for the past 5 years, it has become imperative for me to quit the administration in order to preserve my reputation. He wishes His Excellency well. I mean, there's also those who pointed out, the shocking discrepancy between the cabinets that they were before and where they were
they're
being moved to.
It's rather suspicious.
Yeah,
when you look at it on the face.
I think from the other letters, of resignation, this is from, this is also from Adangor, I beg your pardon. I'm going to read a little bit more of it. It says here, the reasons behind this painstaking effort was to make available a basket of receipts sufficient to enable the state deliver good governance through the provision of goods and services. It was this idea that informed the continuity and consolidation mantra that was then the theme of your election campaign, this and that and that and that. He also says you will respectively recall that when the climate of discord became unbearable, I and other like-minded members of the Executive Council were appointed, that were appointed by you resigned. You thereafter engaged the President and Commander-in-Chief, and the others were recalled, and we all accepted and joined the cabinet again. I expected, sir, that with the opportunity provided, Mr. President, every effort will be made to sustain peace. So that's obviously a lot of issues in, government. It's not, just a cabinet reshuffle. It says, regrettably, Your Excellency, the peace in government and governance that we all citizens and residents of the state desire, doesn't seem to be, currently present in River State. But we'll, of course, x-ray this further in the newspapers, I believe, in the second half of Breakfast Central. Let's quickly take you through a quick recap of some of the things that we've spoken about so far and share with you what's coming next. Welcome once again. Now let's take you through the newspapers this morning, share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria. The phone lines are open, so you could also join us and be a part of the conversations we're having if any of the stories gets your attention. We're starting with this Nigeria newspaper. Big one there says, racketeering destroying the mining industry. Federal government laments. Revokes 924 dormant titles. Gives 30 days to defaulters to rectify status. Federal government grounds all Dana Air operations, reopens runway after incident. Another sad story yesterday. Everyone got to see that video. Multi-choice hikes tariff by 25%. Premium now 37,000 from 29,500 naira. Good luck. In River State, 2 commissioners quit Fubara's cabinet. Military airstrikes kill 16 fleeing terrorists in Borno. And also, mechanized agriculture will combat rising food prices. Experts seek more funding for sector. These are the major stories you can find on the This Nigeria newspaper this morning. Interesting story there with the military airstrikes killing terrorists. I'm sure Nigerians want to see a lot more of similar stories. And I spoke earlier about how sad it is, with Dana Airlines. As much as of course, the Ministry of Aviation needs to do what it must do to protect Nigerian lives and ensure that every airline operating in Nigeria is doing so with laid down laws and regulations and safety regulations. It's just sad to see, another one seemingly biting the dust. And we're hoping that they're able to bounce back and, of course, do what is necessary to ensure that Nigerian, their customers are safe, while flying with them.
Absolutely.
Wish them the best.
I mean, all of us want to be in a plane that guarantees our safety and our security.
Yeah.
But moving away from that,
I hope that there's also proper investigation as to what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Or with the video yesterday, not just, a vague suspension. I hope there's a proper investigation
into that.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, then this story about multi-choice hiking tariff by 25%. I saw a tweet. Someone said, when you go to anybody's house now and their DSTV is on channel 100, you shouldn't judge them. Those adverts are very interesting because people that are trying to eat, we're hiking. And I don't know, maybe I can understand because the cost of running a business in Nigeria has increased. But it just feels like everything is happening at the same time and Nigerians are trying to catch a breath.
Yeah.
But if we look back again at the front page of the paper, that same This Nigeria newspaper, you will see the story regarding Fubara. 2 commissioners quit Fubara's cabinet. And that is the conversation that we're going to be having this morning, looking at the drama regarding Fubara. And we have a guest who will be joining us to look into that. But let's get into the details of the story. In a significant administrative move, Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has implemented a minor cabinet reshuffle in a bid to reorganize his cabinet to bring renewed vigor to the government's efforts in addressing critical issues such as infrastructure development, social welfare, and economic growth, which resulted in the redeployment of key loyalists of former Governor Nyesom Wike. Barely 24 hours after the redeployment, Zacchaeus Adangor, the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, who was redeployed to the Ministry of Special Duties, and Isaac Kamalu, Commissioner of Finance, who was redeployed to the Economy Generation and Economic Empowerment Ministry, tendered their resignation, outrightly rejecting the governor's move.
And of course, Mr. Adangor, in his resignation, accused Governor Fubara of interfering with his duties as Attorney General, while Kamalu disagreed with Governor Fubara on the internally generated revenue of River State. The governor, of course, last week claimed that the state's IGR had moved from 11 billion when he got into office to 27 billion naira in just 1 year, which is about 100% increase. Earlier this week, of course, we recall that Governor Fubara was stripped of his powers to appoint the local government caretaker committee by the River State House of Assembly, and the developments mark the latest twist in a political battle between, well, the River State Governor, his House of Assembly, and maybe other interested parties in the Federal Capital Territory. We have joining us quickly to share his thoughts on some of these stories, Mr. Jerry Omas. Good morning. Thanks for your time, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
All right. Let's, quickly speak about, what's going on in River State. There's people who had already mentioned that right from when the peace accord was being signed, that, there would never really be peace, in the state, at least politically. So is this what we are seeing once again playing out?
Are you saying is peace accord without peace? I thought the accord was to bring peace, but there are people who are hell-bent to make sure that there's trouble at the end of the day. How can you be a commissioner in Fubara's administration, and the job of the commissioner is to drive the vision, the program, and the policies of a particular government? I don't know if you have a very short video of the former governor when he was talking about loyalty. And if you are not loyal, you may not be able to drive the vision, the program, and the project of the administration you are serving in. I am so concerned when people will say, oh, pro-Wike lawmakers resign from Fubara's administration. It doesn't sound well to me, because if you are the governor, those people are supposed to be your pro, not another person's pro at the end of the day. And who said that the governor don't have a right to reshuffle people? This whole thing is like a football team. You have people who may be playing attacking midfield, and the coach may say, okay, I'm converting you to defensive midfield. And you play. And if you know you can't play that, then you just go and they are taking the right decision. And it's within their right to have done that. So I don't see any trouble here.
But don't you think that, usually when you're moving people around, you're moving them to their areas of strength. Some people would think that it's a really far cry. Where they're being moved to is a far cry from where they're being moved from. Is that something to...
There's been this clamor that when the president or the governors are submitting names of their ministers or commissioners, that they should have the position they are supposed to occupy. I think it's because of this purpose that they don't do that, so that you can be taken to any department and you function well there. That's why the requirement shows that you must be a graduate and a well-grounded person in all ramifications. When Adangor was being interviewed, did they interview him that is coming in, or was screened that is coming in as a commissioner for justice? It was screened as a commissioner nominee, not commissioner for justice nominee. The other person, Kamalu, was not screened as commissioner for finance nominee. It was screened as a commissioner nominee. It shows that it can be taken to anywhere at any time and function. So it's not hereditary that he must occupy that position till Christ comes.
All right. I also want to, speak a little bit further about Kamalu. He's mentioning that there has been no peace. According to his letter, let me just share, excerpts from the letter. He says, of course, you respectfully recall that when the climate of discord, became unbearable, I and other like-minded, officials, of course, accompanied him to Abuja to meet the president back then. It says, respectively, Your Excellency, the peace in government and governance that we all, citizens and residents of the state, desire has remained out of reach despite our consistent efforts and demand for same. So he's, according to him, saying that there's just no peace, and of course there's continued discord in the River State House of Assembly, River State government generally. Would you blame failure to manage those in his cabinet? You're talking about Fubara now. Would you blame Governor Fubara for failure to manage effectively the politics of those, and of course the personal interests of those in his cabinet? Or do you think that it's still just personal interests that are clashing?
You just introduced these people who resigned now as pro-Wike lawmakers. Who is the governor of River State now? It's Siminalayi Fubara.
Yeah.
And you cannot be pro-Wike and at the same time working for Fubara when you know that the former governor was saying that his camp has met almost all the agreement, that the camp that is causing problem is the camp of Fubara. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, are you there to work for the Rivers people for benefit, or you're there to work for the man in Abuja? So if you are there to work for Rivers people's benefit, then the man who is the coach of the team right now, I've said, go and play 7 or go to social ministry, you will function well. You say you cannot function, then you leave. What are you blaming people for? So what effort has he made to make sure that there is peace in the River State when you are pro-Wike? And when you call executive meetings, some of them don't come. When you have programs of government, they don't come. When the government has some things, they don't come. You can imagine the Attorney General of the state, a case that the state instituted, you're going to say the state is not interested in that case. And you want such person, that you want to tell me that such person wants peace and is working for the benefit of Rivers people? I don't get it.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Mashogunwa, thank you very much for your time with us this morning. We'll still keep up with the conversation, and we know that there will be more unfolding in River State. We look forward to having you join us again.
No, more will come. I always tell people to just sit back and maybe get popcorn like you're going to the cinema, because more will still unfold at the end of the day. 2 is gone right now. They are 9 in number. We don't know what will happen next. They may decide to join their colleague, like what's the name of this bird? I think a parrot. We say, look, nobody can shoot me with death. So maybe once this one resigns now, the others can just come and say, look, nobody can shoot me with resignation. I am also going.
Okay, right. We'll see how that goes, and we look forward to having you again. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's really wow. Don't worry yourself. Anytime, just contact me. We'll do it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. We're still looking at that story. Let's get the reaction of our in-house guest. We have Nelson Ekujumi, who's a public affairs analyst, here with us. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. We're looking at that story on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper, and that's, of course, the drama happening in River State. No need to go into the details. What are your thoughts?
Well, what has come out clearly is that all is not well, that the crisis still continues despite all the attempts, to mend the cracks. And for me, I think the governor himself needs to eat the humble pie. He needs to manage or keep to the agreements he signed. And because if you have entered into an agreement, I'm not a party to the agreement. I don't know the contents of that agreement. I think it will not be charitable for you to renege on whatever you have agreed to. Agreed absolutely that he's the captain of the ship, but in coming into that team, I'm sure the management of the team must have said, okay, this is our plan for this year. Whether we will win the Champions League or we want to win the local league, because we don't have the resources, we don't have the materials. So if, because he's ambitious, he's overreaching himself, it will be causing problem for the team. So Because whatever happens now today in Rivers, the buck stops on this table, either good or bad, not the man in Abuja.
Yeah, so let's use the same Champions League analogy. The team and their manager had a problem. They went to the board to settle their grievances. The board then says to the manager and the team, sheath your swords. The manager must accept, these 11 team members back. The ones that had decided that they weren't playing for the team anymore, for Super Eagles or which other team? Arsenal, Liverpool.
No, use the local league, Remo Stars.
Okay, Remo Stars, great. So they then go back to continue playing. Of course, the agreement was these people have to be reinstated into the team and all of that. But the agreement didn't say that they must be reinstated and you cannot reshuffle them. The agreement didn't say that if you get back and it's, you realize that, okay, there's more work to be done in the state and you'd rather have this person play in defensive midfield, you'd rather move this striker now to the right, you cannot do that. So, I mean, from what Mr. Moshengo has said, they have not been sacked. They are simply reshuffling them and saying, okay, you no longer should be here, you go here.
Well, I started by telling us that we don't have the details of the contracts. So you don't know, maybe the contract is that this particular person is only suitable to play on the right.
But why would they, even if they have that kind of contract, like why would that be a contract that, or an agreement that the president should be able to determine? He's not the governor of the state. He doesn't understand how the state works and how the state runs. So he cannot tell them exactly, oh, this person should be in this should be in this office and this person should hold this office. That would be an agreement that should not stand, don't you think?
No, I'm not sure the president imposed any agreement on them.
No, I'm just saying, flowing from, since you said we don't know.
There. Yeah, it could be there, but you must recognize that Fubara and his erstwhile godfather are not kids. These are accomplished persons in public service.
All right, let's
so they have control of their mind.
Let's hear from one of our callers. We have Elder David calling from Alimosho. Good morning, sir. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning, ma. Good morning, sir.
All right.
Good morning.
It doesn't seem like we actually have Elder David. All right, go ahead.
So, like I'm saying,
David from Alimosho, sir. Are you hearing?
We don't.
Okay, yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. Politics is a complete resolution. There's no permanent enemy there. What is happening in Rivers State? Remember that of your state. Adedibu and Ladoja. In politics, we must have a godfather. Without anybody promoting, we will not be there. And the man in that river state should be very careful. Because a godfather is like a Jesus Christ to you. God used him to promote you. And if you think, I'm always saying they are not playing policy, these are facts. And watch out what is going to happen later. When that Ojabaso just told him, go and appeal and respect your leader. He refused. What happened? He was in peace. And today, may God bless us and may God bless him. And let me tell you what is happening in Rivers State. That Fubara, we want it here. Have this man and pick him to settlements of other people. And those who are supporting him today are his worst enemy who could not get himself who cannot vote for him. Let him go and apologize. And the president have equally intervened like what Obasanjo George did. The time of Ladoja and the other man. Let him show the line of truth and be very careful. Or if not, work in the next few months. And what's going to happen, because when you offend God and offend humanity, God takes decision on it. And may God bless Nigeria, may God bless us. It's just a state, nothing will happen. If it's removed tomorrow, may God bless you.
Thank you very much for that.
Couldn't really hear all of it. But
there were some things, I mean, I didn't hear all of it, but I could peek where he talked about what's happening here is similar to what happened in Oyo State, and then he did talk about godfatherism.
Yes, it not only in politics, in every facet of life, you might need a godfather to help you to get to your desired destination. But it behoves on you to be able to recognize where to draw the line. And like I stated earlier on, I don't know what transpired between them, what caused the rift, and we don't have...
What caused the rift is that Siminalayi Fubara is attempting to interfere with the structure that Nyesom Wike set in Rivers State. That's what happened.
Well, if that be the case, then I don't think Fubara has the powers or has the rights to interfere with the structure he himself didn't set up. It would have been better for him to start building his own structure and leave the structure of his... because the man is claiming, this house, I built it. You can't bring it down.
Yeah, but it's not your house. You say this house.
How can you?
No, it's not. We are talking about the political structure now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, your time there is over.
Oh no! Don't say that, because the minister is there based on the structure from Rivers State. Okay. If he's not from Rivers State, he will never be a minister.
Are you endorsing godfatherism? Hold on.
I support godfatherism.
You do? We'll come back to talk about that. Okay, let's talk to Tony from Plateau State, I believe. Good morning, Benue State. Please go ahead.
From Benue State.
Pauline.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please, I don't want us to support the kind of policies with the politicians playing in Nigeria. And I want to refer us in Anambra State, when Chris Ngige was the governor. Those so-called godfatherism want him to be, any subvention that comes in Abuja, they will share it in Anambra State, and Chris Ngige say no to that. And we saw the development that comes in when Chris Ngige was fighting those godfathers. The godfather we have in politics in Nigeria is bring and divide, and not to allow you to do something that masses would benefit. Wike has ruled for 8 years. Why is he interested in bringing commissioner to Fubara? And more to that, when Wike was governor of Rivers State, who is his godfather? Wike should allow Fubara to do his work. At the end of the day, if Fubara fails, we know that he didn't do his work very well. But this are thoughts for what?
All right, thank you, Tony, for sharing your thoughts with us. He has said Nyesom Wike should allow Siminalayi Fubara to work. We need to get to the newspaper, but in 30 seconds, why do you support godfatherism?
Because you need, the type of godfather I'm talking about is godfathers that will mentor you in the right way, that will tell you, I've passed through this route. Don't go there.
Is Nyesom Wike that kind of godfather?
There are different kinds of godfathers.
No, but is Nyesom Wike that kind of godfather?
To who?
To Siminalayi Fubara.
That's for Siminalayi Fubara to answer, not me, because Wike is not my own godfather.
No, but your defense initially was...
Yes, my defense is that you need a godfather. Yes. As I'm sitting down here, I have a lot of godfathers. That there are some decisions I want to take. I will consult. They will be the ones to guide me.
But should they be an imposition of sorts? Once you've served your term as governor, you leave and go. I mean,
well, I think one thing we must state clearly here and not play the ostrich is that politics, just like anywhere in the world, does not run like that. Some persons will lay the groundwork for you. You know, bridges are built by people for others to pass through. So if somebody has built a bridge for you to pass through, I don't think it is right for you to attempt to demolish it, because you also will build a bridge for somebody else to come.
You see this conversation, we can't exhaust it today.
No, it's you know, it's we are talking now in parables, sort of. So we are just trying to make people understand. So if we pretend as if, even in the business world,
you know what we're going to do?
We're
going to invite you, since you are pro-godfather.
I'm pro-godfather.
I'm going to invite another guest who is anti-godfather.
Godfather.
I'll
be glad to be here.
Let's move to our next paper. We have the Daily Independent.
All right. Of course, I spoke about this earlier. Kenyamo lacks power to suspend Dana Air, says aviation expert. Says it's gross interference on safety processes and procedures. We're yet to receive any letter from NCAA, says Dana. Kaduna Assembly demands Aerofly's transactions as a probe begins. Pro-Wike commissioners reject redeployment, quit Fubara's cabinet. And also, Obi asks privileged Nigerians to intervene in the area of water and education. We can also find Tinubu asks judiciary to ensure reforms guarantee Nigerians' well-being. The FCC hands over 14 forfeited properties to Enugu State. And also, Nigeria must redouble efforts to mitigate greenhouse gas emission. Because of time, we'll have you quickly speak on the Kaduna, the issues with Nasser El-Rufai, and probably one more thing before we go.
I don't think there's any issue with the El-Rufai case, because if you have served in public, you must be ready to render your account of stewardship at any time.
I agree. Same thing
It's
with
a public
Yahya Bello.
space, so that's not an issue as far as I'm concerned. It's what is supposed to be happening normally. Even if you are the chairman of a CDA, you are expected to render account to those who have appointed. It's not your father's company now that you render account to your father. It's a public space. So you must render account to the public. And if the legislators are representing the people of Kaduna State, they have the right to ask him for his account of stewardship. So me, I don't see anything big in that. It's a normal occurrence that should happen in our polity.
And of course, is it not the same thing that is expected, of Yahya Bello, now?
Absolutely. That is why some of us have come out clearly to condemn Yahya Bello for his show of shame. Because this is a man that has been entrusted with public office. He held that office in trust for the people of Kogi State and Nigerians. And at any point in time, if the people, through agencies of state created for that function, ask you, the EFCC cannot convict Yahya Bello. Yeah. EFCC can only bring out facts and take him to court. And it is for Yahya Bello to respond. So it is not out of place, or I should say, what is happening in Kogi versus Yahya Bello versus EFCC is not necessary. Because if you have held public office, at any point in time, come and render account how you have spent our money for.
But then, in fairness to him, I mean, for now, there's he's not guilty. There's a presumption of innocence.
Yes, absolutely.
And also there was a warrant of arrest. So if you say to him that, oh, come and defend yourself, but there's a warrant of arrest, it's understandable if he refuses to show up. That's one. Two, his media aides have spoken on his behalf to say that there was no formal invitation. Even the Olukaya, they did say that they extended invitation to him, and he extended an invitation out of courtesy, saying, come and explain. Yeah. The books are not balanced. But we're seeing that Yahya Bello's team is saying that they never received any invitation. So I think the responsibility now behoves on the EFCC chairman to show proof that he did invite him.
Even as at that, because of the office Yahya Bello occupied before as a former governor, the #1 citizen of the state, it behoves on him to be responsible, even without being invited, to go there and render account.
All right,
that makes him a leader.
Let's quickly speak with someone from Kaduna this morning. Suleiman, good morning. Go ahead.
Uh-oh. Suleiman, sorry. Ooh.
All right.
So I expect him on his own, even if you have received a call from the FCC chairman, to say, okay, my hands are clean. I'm coming there to explain whatever has happened. Because, like you said, he is presumed innocent until the courts find him otherwise.
Do you think that we should have the same approach, to even previous, governments? Should President Buhari also give pretty much same stewardship of the previous administration?
Of course, that is what is happening. The arraignment of Emefiele and co. What is that?
I mean, that's just Emefiele.
Yes. Emefiele was running an agency of states.
Yes.
So it's when the FCC arraigns him, it means it's been.
But Emefiele did not work alone. Emefiele, was under a president. Do you think that president?
I think you need to read the CBN Act. The CBN is independent of Mr. President. That is why Emefiele was able to take those decisions. Otherwise, the CBN Act would have said Emefiele should take orders from the president. But the CBN Act does not give him that pass.
So do you think that President Muhammadu Buhari has questions to answer on how he's run the government? Because this current administration, they keep talking about, how they met an economy that was bad. They keep leveraging on that excuse. Do you think that President Muhammadu Buhari should be invited to answer questions?
Well, that will be left for the government in power. But I can tell you for free, President Muhammadu Buhari worked with a lot of Nigerians. And if any one of them has been found culpable, except he or she is able to provide evidence linking President Muhammadu Buhari to whatever he or she has done, that is when you can invite President Muhammadu Buhari to come and answer for his position as president. But as we speak till now, even though the present administration is telling you about the economy, even when this present administration is talking about the economy, how about the economy President Muhammadu Buhari inherited from Goodluck Jonathan? An economy in which the federal government, as at 2014, President Goodluck Jonathan handed over power in May 2015. As at 2014 September, the then Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Okonjo-Iweala, said they were borrowing to pay salaries. That was an administration in which over 16 states were owing backlog of salaries. And I'm sure when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has own reins of power today, in May 29,
if they were,
no state was owing money the way they were before President Muhammadu.
I don't agree.
It's in the public space.
No, but I don't agree with that. You know, we unfortunately don't have time to break these things down. But states owing salaries, you know, are the failure of the states individually. It's not necessarily the president's failure. But I just want to say,
no, just a minute.
At that time, because listen, if we look at every economic indices,
yes,
you know, on the Sunday Nigeria from 1999,
yes,
2014 was not a bad time in Nigeria's economy.
It was.
It was not.
It was
okay. Absolutely not. And Nigeria was at that time projected to be one of the world's biggest economies. No matter what,
we've run out of time.
Why didn't they say otherwise on paper?
We will come back. We will come back to have this conversation, and you have to come back because you have shared some thoughts. That
I will.
So we have to have you back.
I hope you remember the big bag between Amechi and the President Jonathan over a sex account. How President Jonathan was
funding. We will go on a break now, and when we come back,
remember that.
We have other conversations this morning. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Following the clamor for the creation of state police that has lingered over the years and peaked recently due to the daunting and multifaceted security challenges confronting the country, a national dialogue on state policing was held on Monday in Abuja.
The dialogue, which was organized by the Office of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, was backed by eminent citizens of the country. Although the IGP faulted calls for its creation, differing from other personalities at the event, and also believed that the country is not yet mature for state police, the IGP, of course, registered strong opposition to the proposal for the establishment of state-controlled police forces, stating that there is potential for abuse of power by the state political leadership, asserting that the country is not yet prepared for such a transition. Joining us to discuss this this morning is Chima Christian, is a public policy analyst, also Executive Director, Africa's Morning Center for Public Policy and Good Governance. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Good to have you join us. Let's get your thoughts, first of all. Are you for or against the creation of state police?
Well, state police has my limited endorsement, all right? So there are arguments that are made for it, and I support those arguments, and I have myself made those arguments for state police. However, there are valid concerns that can also be an instrument of coercion by state governments, that instrument can be abused by state governments. So it has my limited endorsement in the sense that I'm looking forward to the specific modalities in which all of those concerns will be addressed. But I agree with many eminent Nigerians, like you referenced in your report, that state police now is rife because all the things you fear that the citizens may suffer in the hands of their governors, they're already suffering it in the hands of bandits, in the hands of kidnappers, in the hands of terrorists, in the hands of, for instance, in the case of Plateau, terrorists sacking communities. So those things are there, and then I understand that the risk is there, but then the nation has tried everything it can on this, and it's not work. And then one more thing, and then this is a lot of problems, but then put much more responsibility to a government that is closer to the people than that of the center.
Okay, let's talk about, the role that, there's trends. So maybe let's look at how Nigeria will maybe benefit from this if it's something that's eventually put in place. So how do you see that we can also set up institutions that would prevent abuse? Because one of the concerns that was raised was that the state governors would then manipulate this in their own favor and abuse the power of the state police. So how do you think this will benefit the country? And if, after sharing that, please share with us how we can set up structures to prevent abuse and exploitation. Hello, Chima, are you there with us?
Can you hear us? Oh, it seems to be struggling with the connection there, but of course, the conversation on state police continues, those for and those against. with pretty strong arguments, supporting their beliefs. Do you think that Nigeria is ready for state police, that Nigeria is mature enough for state police? Former President Goodluck Jonathan says it is long overdue. Mr. Mr. Chima, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you, and apologies for the glitch. It's one of those things happening here.
Yeah, it's okay.
Apologies.
Yeah, it's okay. I was asking before you got disconnected, how you think this will benefit Nigeria as a country, and what are the ways in which we can put systems and structures to prevent abuse by state governments?
So the system structure proposal heads to the National Assembly Committee drafting that. But then, because we have limited time on your platform, I want to speak directly to Nigerians. Look, whatever policy, whatever law, whatever regulation we put in place, it is left for the citizens to assert their rights. Yes, I think one of the benefits that citizens are expected to gain from this is that they have a security system that is closer to them. This means additional layer of protection. But then every right you enjoy or every privilege you enjoy confers on you additional responsibility. Today, those citizens that are expecting to enjoy more dividends of security or policy are also, because of the propensity for abuse, are going to have to sit up as individuals and also in their clusters to demand for accountability. I reckon that civil societies are shrinking, if not dead, at the subnational levels. I also reckon that you may not have as independent and viral media platforms at the state level. I also reckon that the State House of Assembly may not be as viable as we want them to. These are institutions that are balancing the governor, but they are not there. Now we confer additional, the media then will have to sit up to assert their rights, especially when the line is being crossed, and the citizens must assert their rights. Gone are the days where in a democracy, citizens expect to enjoy evidence of democracy or without demanding. I won't get tired of saying this, that democracy operates a give and take, a demand and supply. In this case, when state policing has been approved, the governors will be responsible for supplying security, but then the citizens will be responsible for demanding the kind of security they want, whether they want excessive high-handedness or they want a policing structure that is curtailed. So it is left for the citizens to determine the way their states are governed, not necessarily only the political actors.
Okay, and of course, nicely put. Obviously, there's a lot of, the little structures here and there that need to come into play to make this a reality. You talk also, about those who, of course, have the fears of abuse by governors. That is one aspect. State houses of assembly, which I have, of course, continued to blame, for failure to checkmate governors and checkmate the executive. How much more improvement do you think we need from state houses of assembly?
Well, there are thoughts that you need from, but then if you talk about the State House of Assembly, you must also talk about the people that send them there. Now that we know that State House of Assembly have influences that they can wield for public good, I think we should now be more careful in selecting the quality of men and women we send there. No longer people coming to our villages sharing noodles, wrapper, and brooms, and we send them to the State House of Assembly. Today, we now know that they can determine the way we are policed. By the way, I also like that this discussion is bringing the kind of powers that is available to executive governors, all right? Because someone you give unfettered access to your commonwealth, someone that determines the tax policy of the state to an extent, someone that determines with his executive officers the IGR drive of the state, for instance, someone that determines the education policies because it's on the concurrent list of a state. So if they determine health, determine education, determine economic to some extent, not monetary but economic to some extent, they can also determine the pay state of one in terms of the quality of men we put in political positions of responsibility. Two, in terms of our aggressiveness and persistence in demanding for accountable governance. If you leave the governors, they will abuse state policy, but if they meet stiff opposition, whether they be at the civil society level or they be in local media reporting freely and accurately, fairly and accurately what is happening, or it is citizens, writing letters demanding that this must not happen. If there are any police officers, then they must sit up and say, no, this one cannot continue to serve. Because in these laws, there is no law in Nigeria, for instance, that permits police to arrest citizens indiscriminately. But citizens must have to sit up and...
Yeah, we seem to be having a struggle with the connection, Chima Christian. Or we may have lost that connection again. Anyway, we'll have to wrap up that conversation here. It's an ongoing conversation. You know, there's going to be more details that emerge from the Nigerian government and, of course, from these relevant stakeholders coming together to discuss on the possibilities of constitutional amendment to accommodate state policing. Chima Christian, thank you very much for stopping by and for your time. Unfortunately, we have to go now. We'll look forward to seeing you again and speaking with you pretty soon. All right. Now, aside, you know, the state police conversation, there's so much more that is going on in Nigeria, and it's not just the politicians in government that are speaking. Nigerians also have their say, and let's quickly share that with you, what Nigerians are saying.
Now let's see what Nigerians are saying. Today we're going to be looking at the drama that's happening in Rivers State with Governor Siminalayi Fubara reshuffling his cabinet and the resulting resignations. Let's take the tweets. Some of the tweets, this one is from Bitter Truth. It says, he doesn't have what it takes to fight Wike. Fubara plans to hijack Rivers State won't work. He campaigned under consolidation. He accepted to be governor knowing what he was getting into. Only Fubara pity card. Fubara, why struggle? Fubara is trying to overtake his master. Is this a master-servant relationship? This one is from L. I'll tell you how Wike has disturbed Fubara if you tell me how Fubara has been ungrateful to Wike. The next tweet we have this morning is from Akiodi A. It says, the spies in the administration of Governor Sim Fubara are gradually leaving the cabinet. Commissioners in the same position for almost 9 and 5 years respectfully, refusing to serve in other capacities means they had ulterior motives. And that's all that we have to take on that. Let us know what your thoughts are on these stories. Tweet at News Central TV on all social media platforms. Thank you very much for joining us on today's show. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Thank you to our guests who joined us. We apologize for some of the connections that we're not able to make.
Yeah.
Some of the guests who tried to join could not join, but we certainly will sort all that out tomorrow and hope for better weather conditions. I am Olive Emodi, and I'll see you tomorrow.
And I'm Osaogi Ogbonwa. See you tomorrow.